Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Advisory. This is the second part of our lesson on perspective. And today we're going to talk about arguing with purpose. So the ability to understand another person's perspective is beneficial for all forms of social interactions, which we've already talked about. Okay, so with your relationships, not just in school, but in your day-to-day social life, these are skills you want to have and to build on. So today we're going to talk about what we would when we would use these skills and how we can make meaningful arguments. Okay, so some professionals, such as like lawyers and politicians, they need to make arguments as part of their job. They make arguments all the time. But you may need to make a logical and persuasive argument for a lot of different reasons. Okay, so here are some other examples of when you would use these skills in the real world. Okay, so for academics, okay, some tests like the AP History test or the ACT, they will ask you to write a logical argument by presenting evidence and eliminating counter arguments. So you have to understand your perspective, why you feel that way, but also consider the counter argument. Okay, you have to write about the counter argument, not just understand it, but be able to write about it. So the personal. So you may want to convince your sister to eat healthier or convince a friend to stop calling you hurtful names. So laying out a logical argument can help making those emotional conversations more convincing. To financial, like in the future, you may need to convince your parents, well, currently, I guess, you may need to convince your parents to increase your allowance or persuade your college to increase your financial aid. So I guess in professional, if you were to become a nurse, so nurses may need to convince a doctor that a patient needs a different type of care. Advertisers may need to convince a customer to buy their product. Okay, so there's those convincing skills, being able to convince somebody, but being prepared for what they might say in response, right? They might not feel the same way. You might go into it knowing they don't feel the same way. So you have to consider how you're going to respond to their counter arguments or any other pushback. Okay, so whether you're trying to convince your parents to let you go to the mall or persuade your history teacher to give you a better grade on your essay, whatever that is, your ability to convince people will come from preparing for their counter arguments, okay? So when we talk about 2D and 3D thinking, a true 3D thinker will be ready to make logical arguments in any different type of situation, okay? So again, when you think back to those 2D thinking, you think of that 2D old school television set, right? Where everything's black and white, no color, black and white. Okay, that's 2D thinking. For example, I'm right and you're wrong. I ignore counter arguments. I am right just because I am. Okay, those are some examples. 3D thinkers, on the other hand, would say something more like, I have considered your perspective and can show you why mine is right. Okay, you can still be right, but you have to prove it, right? You have to have that evidence to show that you're right. And part of that is considering the opposite perspective. Okay, so then I prepare for counter arguments, so you consider them beforehand. I have clear reasons to support my case. Counter argument method. Okay, so say you're trying to convince your parents to let you have a puppy. Okay, let's see how the counter argument method can help you build a persuasive argument. Okay, so first there's steps here. Okay, so first you want to present your thesis. So in this particular circumstance or situation, you could say, if you allow me to have a puppy, then I will learn how to be responsible. Okay, that's if I have a puppy, I will become more responsible. So that's a good thing. Okay, presenting the evidence that supports your thesis. Okay, do you have a thesis? How do you support it? Okay, a person who owns a puppy needs to be responsible for its care. The puppy needs to be fed, cleaned, and walked. It also needs to visit the vet. Okay, so that's the evidence, right? But what will you do to support? But what will you do? I will feed and walk the puppy every day before and after dinner. Before school and after dinner, I will clean up the messes it makes. I will save half my allowance and pay for trips to the vet. So these are very tangible things that you will do if your parents allowed you to have a puppy, or if your guardians allow you to have a puppy. So then, with this 4-step method, right, we're building a logical argument. So we have the thesis, and then we have the evidence to support the thesis. And then we want to present a counter argument should detail the reasons why your thesis could be wrong, okay? You may be worried that I will not have time during track season to take the puppy on walks. You may think that there will be days when I forget to feed the puppy or give it medicine, okay? This is the counter argument that might arise. You may even worry that I will get tired of playing with the puppy. So those are things that might be said to push back against your reasoning. You're saying, I will walk the dog, I will feed the dog, this is when I'm going to walk the dog, I'm going to clean all these things that you are saying that you will do. This is the counter argument. This is what your parents or guardians could say to you to say, I don't know, what about track season? What about medicine? What if you get tired of the puppy, right? These are things that they might have in response to your thesis and your own argument, okay? So then you want to present the evidence that eliminates these counter arguments, right? So during track season, my little sister has agreed to walk the puppy at night. So you've already considered it. You already have a plan. I will set an alarm on my phone so I will never forget to give the puppy food or medicine. I'm on it, mom and dad and guardians. If I ever get bored playing with the puppy, then I will challenge myself to teach it a new trick. In conclusion, allowing me to get a puppy will teach me how to be responsible for something I care about. A puppy would be a wonderful investment for a family. Okay, so you have pushed back against the pushback by being like, hey, I've already thought about this. I already got a plan. Okay, that is the idea between walking through these steps. We have our thesis, we have our evidence to support, but then yet we're considering the big picture. We're considering everybody's perspective here. So did you know that junior lawyers are often asked to write both sides of the argument so they can get used to thinking from multiple perspectives? Like that is a practice that they do to prepare for any case that they may have. Pretty interesting. All right, so I would love for you to spend the rest of the time discussing this as a class. Consider this question. Why do you think it's important to consider the counter argument before you share your argument? Okay. Why is it important? Take some time to discuss. Have a good day, everybody, and we'll see you next time.